Hi everyone, this is Lee and I'm providing you guys with a running shoe update from the last video I took, which was in lockdown in 2021. A few things have changed since then, and I thought, given those changes, it might be useful to provide an update video because I feel like some of the things I said in the last video, they're not inaccurate, but enough has changed that, the basics are still there, but there's some updates in the running shoe industry and the technologies that have come out that might make a new video necessary. A few things have changed in my life as well since that video came out. So last year I ran two races since COVID, which were the first races I did since COVID. I ran the space race at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where I came fifth overall, and the Bay to Bay half marathon on the Central Coast here in Australia, where I came 47th overall with an 88-minute total time. I know what you're really keen to know from both of those videos, or from both of those races. I ran the New Balance RC Elite in both. I'll talk more about those shoes later. I've got them behind me, and yeah, lots to say about those. And I'm also signing up for the Canberra Marathon in a few months, which will probably be the last marathon I run for some time, given some significant life events that are coming up in my future. Leave it at that. I also wanted to give a shout out to the people who, between that video and now, have talked or suggested some decaf coffee brands. I recently got an AeroPress for Christmas, and that was great. I can't highly recommend that enough. AeroPress, very good. Made those single origin coffee beans recommended by Faye really good in an AeroPress. So yeah, thank you for that. I would also recommend, if you're in Florida, the Kennedy Space Center outside of the race. That was really fun. It's a cool place to go. Got to see a lot of history. My award was presented by an astronaut, which was very cool and unexpected. So yeah, those were two things that, yeah, I definitely recommend. All right, now I know why you're here today. It's to talk about shoes, or to hear me talk about shoes, because, I mean, what's more exciting than that? So, what's changed since the last video? Well, the main thing that's changed that I think warranted a new video is that a lot of companies have mainstreamed the new technologies in the midsole foams that primarily were being used in their more expensive racing shoes, and they've either dropped the price on those shoes themselves. So, for example, Nike has started selling their Vaporfly, which is their top line racing shoe. You can get those on sale now, sometimes for under 200 Australian dollars, which I know seems like a lot, but for a shoe that could improve your running economy by 2 to 4%, that's pretty significant. And they've also started introducing those foams in their daily trainers, which has made some of the things I said or brands I recommended, change a little bit. So another thing that's also improved my understanding of shoes, and I think the public's greater understanding, is there's been a mainstreaming of research around running economy efficiency improvement with different midsole foams. This has been led by a lot of different sports science research, but in particular on Instagram, someone who goes by the name Lab Rat Rundown has been a great source of running economy data. I will either link that here if I can figure out how to do that, or it'll be in the description. I haven't done that on YouTube before. I make like one video every 2 years, so apologies if that doesn't show up right there, but I'll try and make it do that. I'll also link in the description to my favorite retailers here in Australia, Pace Athletic, which has a few brick and mortar shops in Sydney, and runningwarehouse.com.au. They're still my go-to. They've got a good return policy too, so even if you're buying online, you can rest assured they're going to give you, they're pretty good about returning shoes if they don't fit, as long as you don't run outside or scuff them and that type of thing. All right, so since we last talked, Nike and Adidas have made iterative changes to their running shoe lineups, but primarily for Nike, it's just been iterations on their existing stuff. Um, the Vaporfly and Alphafly have received updates, but it's still the same type of midsole foam, which is Pebax, which is probably the most energy efficient foam on the market right now. Adidas has made some updates to their shoes, which have made them more competitive both with Nike and with other brands. And then my three favorites, New Balance, Asics, and Saucony, have pretty much transformed their lineups since the last video. And that's included making a lot of the more expensive super foams that they were using mainstream. And they sell the shoes for as little as like $150 that have those foams in them. And then something I thought was funny is I don't know if you guys remember Puma from back when you were a kid. Even they have transformed their running shoe lineup to include foams that were either made using a supercritical manufacturing process. I mentioned that in the previous video, but basically that involves taking a little puck or a miniaturized version of the midsole, injecting it with gas and having that expand into the final product. And there are a few benefits for resilience, compliance, and also durability that are likely the result of that process. So you can take a traditional shoe technology like EVA or ethyl vinyl acetate, inject it with this manufacturing or with a gas. You get a supercritically infused foam, and yeah, a lot of companies have taken that on board. So Puma uses that. They also make a Pebax racing shoe, which I think is crazy when you think about what they have been known for as a brand for the last 5-10 years. You wouldn't think of them as like a top line running shoe brand. At least I wouldn't have. But yeah, that's now changing. So yeah, those companies have all made huge leaps in their running shoe lineup, from mainstream daily trainers all the way up to their most expensive racing shoes. A few companies haven't though. Hoka, or Hoka, as you guys like to say in Australia, and Brooks. Neither of these companies have really done much. The most that they have started to come out with, at least for Brooks, has been they've done the supercritical EVA. They don't have anything that uses TPU EVA blends. It's pretty much the best thing that they've been able to come up with has been using EVA, which they had for years, but using a different manufacturing process, which is okay, but other brands are doing more and not charging as much. The same is true with Hoka. They have the Mach Supersonic uses a supercritical EVA foam, and they are just now, as I speak, it's not out in Australia yet, but they have announced that the Rocket X2 will include Pebax. So that's good, but that's one shoe. It will probably retail for between 300 and 350 Australian dollars. If you're watching this from overseas, just add like $150 or $100 to the American equivalent, because things are expensive here. But yeah, that's a lot of money for a shoe where there are a ton of options if you want a racing shoe, or even something that's kind of in between a racing shoe or just a daily trainer in Australia that uses the same midsole technology. So yeah, Hoka, Brooks, not a lot of innovation. Most of their lineups are just EVA or ethyl vinyl acetate. That has a energy return or energy loss, depending on how you count it, rate of 50%. So 50% of the energy you put in per foot strike, you lose. Whereas Pebax or other midsole foams foams, it's more like 80%. 80% of the energy inputted you're getting back, or only a 20% energy loss if you're looking at it that way. So yeah, because of that, I haven't really touched those brands, which I used to use more, especially Hoka. And I would say if you are just looking for a shoe to walk around in, there's nothing wrong with those, especially if you can get them on sale. And they do make some good some good models, especially I think the Hoka Mach 5, which is meant to, I believe, have a supercritical EVA foam in it as one of its midsole components, because it's a dual density foam. That's a good model. It's expensive though. It's about $250. So, I would say Hoka is at the point for me right now where I wouldn't even consider them unless you're getting it on sale, because they're also selling EVA for a very expensive price. Most of their base models are $250, which I just think is a lot for a technology that's been around since the 70s, when other brands are doing more. So my favorite brands in the last, since the last video, have been Saucony, Asics, and New Balance. And I feel like they've really done a good job, not just of introducing new foams, which, they put in their most expensive shoes, but they've also done a good job of introducing it to lower priced models as well. So I'll bust out what I'm running in right now. So this is an Asics Nova Blast 3. I think in the last video I showed you the 2. The difference between the 2 and the 3, this has 1 millimeter more stack height in both the forefoot and heel. They're weird in how they measure their stack heights, which is why I'm not really going to go into a lot of detail on that, because I've found since the last video that every shoe company kind of measures it differently. They either do or don't include the sock liner inside the shoe, or in some cases, like Asics, they don't even count the outsole, so this rubbery bit. They don't count that in their stack measurement, which is bizarre. Like, it's not like you can buy this shoe without the rubber on it, but for some reason they don't include that in their official measurements. So it's somewhere around 35 to 40 millimeters in the heel, basically. It is, if you're counting all of the different components, it will likely be somewhere between there, depending on how you're measuring it. What's great about this midsole is called Flight Foam Blast Plus, which is a lot of words. That is a blend of EVA and olefin, which is an elastomer, so it makes things stretchy. And the good thing about this midsole and this shoe is it's very light for how soft and comfortable it is. So this shoe, I believe it is, in my size, around 240 grams per shoe. That's pretty good for most of the shoes I run in. It's usually between 200 and 300 grams per shoe for me, but that's right around the middle, and this is especially good at running long distances comfortably. Super, super comfy, super soft, and yeah, no complaints, like no hot spots or irritation issues, and really, yeah, good shoe for that. And it can run fast too. It's pretty much what I just put on if I'm planning on running and not thinking too much about how fast or long I'm going. Yeah, so it's good, lightweight. It dropped like a ton of weight since the model I showed you last year. I think this is like 50 grams less than that one, which was mostly from the upper taking things out of it, but it's still a very comfortable upper. I think the last one was just a bit overbuilt. So yeah, great shoe. And this is a good brand. Asics is where they use this foam, but also their super foam, which is in their most expensive racing shoes, is you can get different brands that have, or different models from their brand that have that. So it's good in that they have a good lineup, not just this specific shoe. Most of the shoes that are sold by Asics right now are really good. All right. Now, I mentioned before that I did my races, the half marathon and the 3K, with the New Balance RC Elite 2, which is here. You can get this on sale for about $250. I got this in America when I was there last and got a bit of a deal because shoe arbitrage is a thing, and for some reason Australians just end up having to pay more, even if our currency isn't worth as much. You know, it doesn't really balance out. They don't say what the midsole is. I mean, it's called Fuel Cell. That's their marketing moniker for it. What it actually is, they do not say though, but most people believe it is a supercritically manufactured tempered polyurethane, or TPU. And basically it is, I'll try and get, it is super soft. It is like, I raced 2 races in this, and it has sort of been not retired, but I now just use it for long distance runs because it is so comfortable. It is like running on marshmallows, or even like every brand says their shoe is like running on clouds. This is the closest I would say to actually achieving that. It is so soft, so comfy. I love it. Unfortunately, this one has about 500 kilometers in it, and it's starting to get to the point where it really, you know, it's still okay to run in, but it's a bit sloppy. It's becoming a bit unstable, and you know, that's unfortunate, but that's the reality. The good thing about this though is New Balance puts this foam, which they call Fuel Cell, in a lot of their shoes, including the Fuel Cell Rebel, which is only $150 on sale right now on Running Warehouse. And same foam, same magic, maybe a little bit different because it's not as thick and it doesn't have a carbon fiber plate, but still has that magic. All right, what else? The other shoe, and I know these are a lot of shoes. Kat, you know, she has opinions about how much money I spend on running shoes. Most of this is from gift certificates though, so yeah. This is the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. This uses beaded P-backs, so this is the same foam material that Nike uses, but in a different manufacturing process. I'll try and get my crappy webcam to show it, but basically, here actually, let's try it. That's a better angle. You can see it kind of looks like popcorn bits. That's the beading manufacturing process where they've basically taken bits of P-backs and molded them together. Their claim is that that's more durable and that this should have a longer life than Nike's equivalent. I don't know if that's true or not, but this shoe has about 350 kilometers on it, and it's nowhere near flattening out. I feel like it will probably go, I would hope, at least 700 kilometers. That's usually when I try to retire shoes. That's when I find they lose their resilience and they become uncomfortable to run in. This uses a super foam, but you can get it for between $180 and $250 depending on if it's on sale or not. And it's a good example of a brand taking their best technology and not just reserving it for their best shoes. The entire Saucony lineup includes non-EVA, or at the very least EVA plus TPU blended foams. So all of the shoes that you get from Saucony I think are good value and offer intriguing technology, and also they're just fun to run in. The only thing I would say with this shoe, consider if you are going to get it going a half size up. I went my normal 11 and a half, and I think the shoe would feel better if it was a half size larger. So that's all I would say on that one. And last but not least, the shoe that I intend to race in Canberra in a few months. This is the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, which I think I showed in the last video, but this is like a few versions up from that. They've added more midsole. This now has a measured stack height, and the other thing now is you need, in order to race in a marathon, it can only be 40 millimeters max in the heel. That's the AAF regulation. They don't care that much for the races I'm doing, and I'm not going to be winning it in any case. But those are the regulations. This goes to that max stack. So this is, I think, 39.5 in the heel, something less. I think it has an 8 millimeter drop. So what is that? 32, something like that on the forefoot. This also uses beaded P-backs. So it's not as visible because I haven't run as many kilometers, but you can kind of see that popcorn business going on there. This also has a carbon fiber plate, whereas the Endorphin Speed that I showed you earlier has a plastic plate, or what do they call it? TPU. Yeah, it's plastic anyway. Yeah, great color. This is more expensive, but you can get these on sale occasionally. But yeah. So that's it. I've gone over my last video length, 21 minutes talking about shoes. Enjoy.